Hello and welcome to another episode of Commander Fodder. So following on from the previous one I did, where I did a build around periphery nodes, I enjoyed that so much. I'm back with another one of those under the Commander Fodder banner. These episodes of Commander Fodder don't really have episode numbers now. And the plan is going forward, because someone asked me if I was going to do more of these, and the answer is yes. What I'm going to try and do is align it with the deck Durdle in terms of what particular sets I'm pulling from. So the most recent episode of the deck Durdle, we're in the Tempest block. So in the same block is where I'm going to be doing the Commander Fodder episode for today. And going forward, the idea is that every time I move to a new block as part of the deck Durdle series, around that point I'll do an episode of Commander Fodder where I pick a build around card from that block. So, basically how it's going to work is those Commander Fodder episodes for that particular aspect to do with, picking a rare from, in this case, a virtual booster. They'll come out, I suppose, roughly every 6 episodes of the deck Durdle, because that's roughly how long it takes me to get done with the block, considering all the combinations. Obviously 2 set blocks is slightly different, and more recent single sets, which don't really have a block anymore, will be different, but that's going to be a while until we get to that point. Obviously I'm going to probably slot in other episodes of Commander Fodder outside just the build around concept, because it's just interesting to pull in cards from all over the place, be it rares from boosters that have been cracked, or pre-con decks which weren't originally Commander decks, or pre-con decks that were originally Commander decks, or multiplayer decks in the case of Plane Chase stuff. So earlier today I went into my old friend MTGen, and for Exodus, Stronghold and Tempest I opened a virtual pack each and looked at the rare. And for those, as you saw here, there are 3 rares. Rolling Stones, which is the one I've chosen, which walls can attack as though they were not walls, which is an enchantment. And the other 2, which I'm not going to use, there's the Pegasus Refuge, so 3 and a white. It's enchantment. These are actually, interesting enough, all enchantments. All of the rares so that one's from Stronghold. Is that right? Yeah, Stronghold. That one's from Tempest, and that one is from Exodus. All 3 of them were enchantments. So this one spits out Pegasus tokens for a cost of 2. Don't really want to build a Pegasus deck. And this one is actually banned in Commander, limited resources, so we don't really want to build around that. The reason why Arcades the Strategist is here, obviously the ability here on Arcades matches what we're trying to do here. So what we're trying to do is take walls and make them attack as though they were not walls. So with Arcades the Strategist, which is 1 green, white, blue, came out in M19. It's just been actually reprinted already in the Time Spiral Remastered. So we'll have a look at the artwork on that. It's actually the same, the border's different. And we'll probably use the old style border because it fits more in with the old style border for Rolling Stones. So it's Flying Vigilance. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Well, we're going to be building around walls, and we're going to be building around defenders, which are walls. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So we've got a layering up here of these abilities, just in case we don't have our commander in play and we have this in play, or vice versa. I'll be looking for other things that allow walls to attack, and also there's going to be some creatures which are defenders but aren't walls. That makes sense. We're just going to pop over to EDH Rec just to see for Rolling Stones what it recommended in terms of commanders. So we have 3 here, Arcades, which seems to be the most popular. Then we have Dora in the Siege Tower, which is no surprise here. Each creature assigns its combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Different 3-colour combination. And then Paramecon, which is also a wall, has Flying Defender. As Paramecon, Sky Rampart enters the battlefield, choose left or right. Each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the chosen direction and Planeswalkers controlled by that opponent. So Arcades is green, white, blue. Doran is black, green, white, and Paramecon is blue, red, white. So they're all different 3-colour combinations. Now the other reason I'm in here, obviously what happens is this sort of shows you what are called high synergy cards before it starts looking through the top cards related to other decks which contain this particular card. So what I'm actually going to do, I stumbled across this the other day, I hadn't really thought about it, which is this thing called Table View. And what it does is, if you do this search, there's our inclusion. So this is a percentage inclusion in terms of decks versus that card, Rolling Stones. But there's also a synergy column, which is often slightly different, because obviously you get cards like Command Tower, which is in a lot of decks, but there's not necessarily synergy with that deck. And initially, while I'm what I'm calling seeding Architect, I'm more interested in high synergy cards than high inclusion. Now, some of these are going to be top of the list anyway, like Wall of Denial. Also, of course, we need to make sure we're on colour. So we're playing now a green, white, blue deck. So what I really need to do before I do anything is change in here the designation of this deck, because at the moment I've just got it set to custom for ease of use. Because before you add the commander, if you have it set to Commander EDH, all the cards show with red borders around them, which can be a bit distracting. So I'm going to just do that, and we will drag that into the commander slot. These can probably go away. In fact, I'll get rid of these. I don't think we're really too interested in including these. I'm just going to do that. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to pick 5. What's that? That's white. Yeah, no, just making sure it's not the colour. Okay, I'm just bouncing around here, sorry. So we're playing, was it white, blue, green? If I've got that right. Yeah, got green, white, blue. So I'm just going to pick from this list everything that's in the sort of top 20%, so 80% plus, excluding this color. So what we got? Wall of Denial. Okay, it's a wall with Shroud. High Alert. Okay, that's going to reinforce. This is another good enchantment. Assault Formation. Overgrown Battlement. Wall of Blossoms. Axebane Guardian. Wall of Frost. Also, this is quite useful sometimes here. I'm actually going to make a note of this average type distribution. Just because sometimes when you're deck building, it is quite useful to just have some ballpark features. You don't have to stick to these. I mean, it's up to you, like what percentage you have. But I am just curious, because when I built the previous deck, things sort of like that went a little bit out the window. And we ended up, I think, with quite a low creature count, which did bother me. Because we had such high, I think, artifacts and enchantments in there. Like I said, not that I need to... I'm more interested here, probably the amount of land to creatures. And I know a lot of the sealed commander product, you know, the land count gets up to probably the 40s actually. Okay, back to here. So let us bring across. I could probably do an import on this, but you know, sometimes it's just nice to dawdle around with the tools. So obviously there's going to be a ton of walls in here, plus defender utility creatures. I'll also be using MTG Assist as a way of helping me look for cards which have similar wording where I'm looking for redundancy. Now I must admit it wasn't too successful, and I'll show you why. When I did this, it didn't quite work out as I thought. And I think it's just to do with the wording on the card, is maybe throwing whatever algorithm they're using in MTG Assist in the lookup of the rules text to actually work that out. So just to recap what we've done here, basically we've chosen our build around card from the original three, we've chosen our commander, and now what I'm doing is I'm trying to seed the algorithm in Architect. It has both an EDH rec algorithm, and I suppose I could have used that, although I don't know if it's based on synergy or not. That's the trouble. It might be based on inclusion index. So basically use the high synergy cards to seed the deck, and then use the regular tool in here in Architect to come up with suggestions. And you can control the categories as well. You'll see in a moment. So here we go. So I'm going to go into Rex. Just out of curiosity, this is now activated because I've got a commander in there and I've got sufficient number of cards. If I do this, you'll see it go away and give me further suggestions from EDH Rec based on what's in the deck already. Oh, well, actually, no, that's not right. It's saying showing cards play with your commander. and obviously it doesn't include anything that's already in there. I'm curious for this algorithm what sort of things we get back. Okay, so I envisage having signets in here. I mean, obviously, you know, get in the deck Soul Ring, Wall of Tangle Cord. Okay, there's another artifact. Wall of Junk. So 2 to cast. It's an interesting card. So we want the on-colour signets. There's going to be 3 then. Yeah, so I wouldn't mind those in the deck. This is always interesting. I've always been fascinated by this card. Counts as a wall. If Shield Spear is assigned as a blocker, put a -0/-1 counter on it. Which is interesting. Leave that out for the moment. Just looking down here. This is always fun to see what it suggests. Gilded Lotus. Got the talisman as well, and these obelisks from Shards block, and the lockets. In terms of artifacts, yeah, get in there. What's this? Yes, please. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Okay, so in you go, Swiftfoot Boots. In you go, Lightning Greaves. We'll probably play around with the artwork. Let's stop there. We got the original. Oh yeah, Mirari, there we go. makes an awful lot of difference. It was interesting when that came out. It was like a chase common. And these just, again, this is interesting to know where all this sort of stuff comes from. This would have been original, this would have been from Dissension, these cards originally. Commander Sphere, that's what I can see the first time that was printed. So Commander 2014. It's interesting to know, once, if you just look at the yearly Commander products that have come out, once I think it's the next set to come out, so, you know, Commander 2021, and I know they now tie it to certain sets, and I know also obviously we've had interim Commander products on each of the sets, you know, decks, but if you just look at purely the yearly one, they skipped 1 year. There was, after the first year of Commander products, if you go back to the original Commander product, they skipped 1 year because they had that Commander's Arsenal, and then the following year they did it. Well, we're now up to this one that's coming out this year. This will be the 10th yearly Commander product. 10th, yearly Commander deck. Or decks. And I noticed apparently they've changed the packaging slightly as well, which is probably good because there always used to be, you know, like excessive packaging in that product. So it's always nice to see them sort of reducing that down a little bit. You can see these have been printed a lot in Commander. Yeah, that was the original one. So 2011, but there was a gap between 2011 and 2013 because in 2012 they printed the Commander's Arsenal instead of an actual series of Commander decks. And this thing, you know, it's been reprinted multiple times in Commander and all sorts of sets. So just for looks. Yeah. Wouldn't be in the deck. Well, I'm just wondering what's the cheapest. Okay, what's the cheapest old school? That would be revised, wouldn't it? 27 now. I can remember a few years ago when that was, you know, $13. There was also a more recent. What was the nice? Was it in the Commander green one? There, that one. Yeah, let's have that one. I know it's, you know, slightly different. And one of the reasons I'm going through this is not just but what's interesting, not so much with these, but with when we look at other cards, I'm always curious as to see, you know, when the earliest version of the card was printed. And what set that originates from. Because sometimes, not so much here where we're working on synergies, but sometimes when you're building more of a thematic deck for whatever reason, it's interesting to see where the cards came from in terms of the original sets. So, you know, with Arcades, we're going to change this in a moment. So this was originally an M19. It's been reprinted in Time Spiral in the time shifted slot. So they've kept the artwork, but they've altered the border. So just because it fits more in the sort of old style of this. Rolling Stones, I don't know how many times that's been reprinted. So only 2 other times now, 7th and 8th edition. And I don't know, they did change the artwork. Yeah, we're going to keep that. Where do we get to? Screen's gone a bit weird all of a sudden. Yeah, so I can't remember when Rise of Eldrazi came out. I had a magazine. I'm trying to think, is it Beckett's? They did like this one-off magazine where they were going to do a series of Magic the Gathering magazines, but obviously at a time, so that would have been what, 2010. They just didn't carry on with that. Wasn't really sustainable. Oh, I remember Wall of Frost from M10 and Wall of Junk. How many times that's no, it's just Urza's. Yeah, we're coming up to Urza's block in the deck Durdle. So 2 more episodes in Tempest, and then we'll be moving on to Urza block. So that's going to be interesting. Okay, let's just wasted some time there, just getting the old school artwork. Okay, let's see what we can do damage wise here. So I'm going to have a look at some more support cards before I start looking at what was I going to say? Before I start looking at creatures. And obviously we need to sort some land out as well. So I'm going to look at some enchantments that it might recommend. So we've already got High Alert in there. Maybe I should have waited till the end before I start adding these in, because I think Assault Formation is already in there. Because I changed the set, it thinks it isn't. So what have we got here? So, Brave the Sands. Creatures you control have vigilance. Each creature you control can block an additional creature. Okay, no. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equals to its toughness. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be useful. Okay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control with toughness 4 or greater get +2/+2. Yeah, that's going to be good with the walls. So that's good. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card you control, draw a card. Okay, so we're playing... Seeing as we're playing Commander, that's nothing to do with synergizing with our Defender stroke Walls theme, but yeah, come on in. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy a target artifact. So obviously we need artifact and enchantment destruction. There's our rolling stones. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you cast it from your hand, you may such a power and toughness. No. You'll get +1, 0, +1 and have to reach. Useful. Well, there's True Folk Umbra. So we probably want to trample through. Oh, I do like Mirari's Wake. If you tap. How are we doing? I don't want to get too overloaded with enchantments, but let's just see. Do I want to lock down this with tithe stuff? Looks like that's a functional reprint. Okay. That could be useful. Continue control of double strike and lifelink. Ooh, that's going to be super annoying. Yeah, I think I'll hold it there on the enchantments. So when was Angelic Chorus? Okay, another Urza Saga card. Oh wow, look at the artwork on that. That's cool. Now, Aura Shards, I think, yeah, way back in Invasion Block. Some of these are going to be relatively recent. I think High Alert, yeah. It's not a reprint, it hasn't been reprinted. This has been, wow, Judgment, huh. $32. I don't know what the cheapest is. I'm assuming it just picks the one that is probably the cheapest. It was in Conspiracy as well. It's been in a few things. It was included in the Commander's Arsenal. I might even have I'm trying to, if I've got the full copy of that or not. I think I might have. Yeah, there was this one. What's from Dragons of Tarkir? I remember that. Okay, so True Convictions. Was that in a Strad block? No, Scars of Mirrodin. Wow, even before then. And it was in the signature spellbook for Gideon. Oh, that's where that copy comes from then. Okay, so what different art? Okay, so that's the... What was the Magic Online promo? Okay. Good to know. So this is shaping up nicely. Well, what we'll do is once we get our regular cards in here, we'll use the stats to just work out what our basic land base is going to be like. I want to put some utility land in here as well, but I'm going to sort of wait on that, I think, till further into the deck. Okay, so let's look for some spot removal-y type things, possible combat tricks. That's going to be fun. Okay. Oh, Beast Within. Oh, Cyclonic Rift, of course. Negate, Band, Charm. Yeah, so modal instants are always fun in Commander. And we got Path to Exile. It's cool, some cool spot removal. Tutor. Mystical Tutor. Do I want to play all the on-colour charms? This is a question. looking for. I wouldn't mind having some instant speed wrath effects actually. Shiva's Charm. Oh, Pongify. It's always interesting with some fog effects as well. Cliff of Life. Damage done to target wall by. Okay. Plenty of instants. I do like Crib Swap. Bone to Ash. Silence in there. That's always useful when you're messing around. With power and toughness. Just looking for various get me out of trouble spells. Speed card draw. Scalable. Let's go back up here. I need to find some artifact removal. Put that in. It's rather a lot of instance, probably more than I need. Let me just get rid of... Actually, no, that's useful. Maybe hold that for the moment. Okay. So most of our wrath effects are going to be sorcery speed. With total power 4 or less. Okay, so Kodama's Reach, Rampant Growth. Explosive Vegetation. We're playing green. Playing blue and white, so we might as well do Supreme Verdict. Do I want to do that? Overrun. Just reset. Now there was one in here. So you know that Explosive Vegetation came from Onslaught, probably. Kodama's Reach is reasonably old as well. It's Champions of Kamigawa. That I'm pretty sure this comes from, yep, core set. Now, Planar Cleansing, from what I remember, yeah, it's M10. Good old Rampant Growth. It's been around for a long while. Maybe. Maybe not that artwork. Or maybe, oh, I don't want... Yeah, why not? It's a bit tacky. What's Tempest like? Oh yeah, that's the Tempest one. Supreme Verdict, wasn't that from... Oh, it was Return to Ravnica. Why did I think that was earlier? What about Time Wipe? Roar the Spark. And of course Wrath of God is very old. It was reprinted in 10th. If you went for an original, whoa, expensive. Revised is $20. I think I might, I'm not sure if I do have a revised version of this or not. I've probably got a 4th edition somewhere. And I'm pretty sure I have 10th edition. See, cards like this, like Blustersquall, let's return to Ravnica. Now, Crypt Swap, that came from, was it Lorwyn around that time? Yeah, it's a good guess. Path to Exile. So that has obviously been reprinted in Time Spiral in the time shifted slot, but that was from Conflux. That ties in with the story. I'm pretty sure that ties in with the novel of that time, part of the plot line. So how old is Solidarity then? That goes back to Urza's Destiny. And it's interesting as well how different just changing the border can sometimes make things look in terms of the artwork, which is another interesting thing when you're looking through this. Oh, completely different artwork there. Saying there, and again, it just looks, there's a slight difference sometimes with the almost like the depth of the artwork. Right, better get some actual creatures in this deck then. Do we want to? Maybe we want to have a look at Planeswalker. Was it nice to have one Planeswalker? Ooh. Okay, that would work. I'm not sure what that is. Let me just have a look. Nope. Let's go with my original thought there. Think. Boom. Cool. So we got actually in the deck. We could go for a lot more Planeswalkers in there if we wanted to, I suppose. Okay. Now on to creatures. Real bread and butter of the deck. Yeah, I wish I'd not changed the artwork now, actually. I know that's not in the deck. Creature control power toughness 1 or less, can't be blocked. Ooh, yeah, that's good. And the creatures you control with Defender, yep. Wall of Omens, yep. Wall of Frost, yep. Oh, means we've already got it in there. That's interesting. Green spells and blue spells you play cost 1 less to cast. Okay. So playing green, blue. Let's just go down this list first. And sometimes it's nice to work from the bottom with the recommendations. Revelark. All of Stolen Identity. Funny. Suspicious Bookcase, Doorkeeper. Shield Sphere. True, it's that true redemption there. Okay. See, that makes me curious now. And if you want to bounce a creature spell which has a utility on it. Okay. Yeah. So really it's just a question of putting in good defenders. Ooh, excuse me, Wall Tribal. Yep. It's already in there. Wall of Roots. Yeah. Want that. This one I was unsure of. Oh, hang on. Why am I unsure of that? That's interesting. How are we doing? So doesn't really help us. Okay, that's useful. It's a pretty large wall. So indestructible things are always good. Creature on the battlefield. Okay, yep, I like that. I like clone effects. Oh. Bounce, yeah. That's cool. I'm just thinking now of utility stuff. That's fun. So now we're getting into the area of sort of utility creatures scattered through here. Nobile Hierarch's useful because it's spot on colour for what we've got. Yeah, let's put that in for utility. Probably gone over the top on the creatures actually now. Sideboard those for the moment. Rather too many creatures, and I can play around with this maybe at a later date. Okay, let's have a look and see what sort of a utility land and fixing. So we definitely want command tower in there, and Seaside Citadel, and the usual suspects. So you would like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. And I do like our old friends. Those. I mean, I could go for the expensive stuff, but I'm going to just stick with things that are relatively reasonable. Refuge was fun to put in. Oh yeah. Ghost Quarter in. Guy's Cradle. Wow. Mostly playing walls. The other thing is, because we're playing Wall Tribal, there's probably a number of other cards that would benefit us from naming a creature type. Other things I might put in here are things like the life lands. But I'm just going to leave that for the moment. Not get too greedy. Well, it does look like it's fairly evenish. We've got slightly more green and white than, well, actually saying that. It's not that even. Right, let's try and get some land in here. So we need islands, and of course, seeing as our original card comes from the Tempest block, we're going to do that. So what are we doing? Islands, forests. I think this is right. Oops. And plains. Not plans, plains, please. Looks pretty grim. Right, so we need to bump up white a bit. So I'm just going to try and make it so this and this sort of match one another. Just sort of eyeball it really. Yeah, we need much more white, don't we? More than anything. And count might even be a little bit on the low side. Probably ditch some of these support cards if that was the case. If we were getting sort of poor land draws. We could certainly cut down a little bit on our blue. Actually, we've got double blue for Wall of Frost. We are playing quite a bit of white in our deck. Okay, so that's... Oh, actually one more. Yeah, because it includes the commander in here. 317 bucks. We probably reduced that a bit by paying, not the most recent version of the card. I didn't go around down here, and I don't think I went through and changed all the artwork in here. I don't know how much I want to spend doing that at the moment, but I just can't resist. Wow, that's original Ravnica. See, Glacial Wall. Is that quite an old card? Oh yeah, I thought so. Ice Age. That's funny. Wow. It is fiction. I'm going to have to go through these now because it is quite amusing to see, like the original artwork. Because part of this series is there's an element of the aesthetic. I just stuck this in here because I really like this idea here. There's a Hornet's Nest. I'm assuming God, that was in Apocalypse. Wow. Okay, so did they reprinted that then in Explosive Vegetation? Wow, that was a reprint. What do you know? Enter of the Meek. Yeah, no, I had a feeling that was from Innistrad. And Mnemonic Wall, that seems to be, was that in? Yeah, that was in Rise of the Eldrazi. That was as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Overgrown Battlements. Perimeter Captain. I remember that from World Wake, but it wasn't, yeah. I wasn't sure if that was a reprint or not. Shielded Sphere we already look at. Now that's from Alliances. That's from way back. And there's quite a lot of Rise of Eldrazi. Actually, that would be right, wouldn't it? Because that block did have a number of walls in it. There was probably, wasn't there a wall deck in there that you could draft? From what I remember. Now it's sort of coming back to me. So that was Dominaria, and that wasn't printed anything else. Looks like a more modern card. And Tree of Redemption was from original Innistrad. There's quite a lot of Rise of Eldrazi in Innistrad. Yeah, wow, that's from Acadian Masks. Again, look at the difference in the artwork when you put the border in there. Wall of Blossoms. Yeah, because we pulled that. Well, yeah, I've seen that in some of the Tempest pulls that we've been doing recently in the deck Durdle. And yeah, wow. Wall of Denial. Yeah, walls are a thing in, that was it. Walls are a thing in the Tempest block as well. Oh yeah. This is Destiny. I think we'd already done some of these actually. Wall of Junk, yeah. Wall of Mulch. What do you reckon? Is that before M15? Yep. There we go. Onslaught. Look at the difference. It almost looks like completely different artwork. Yeah, it is. That has been changed. So some of that may well have been subtly changed, possibly. Now, Wall of Omens was definitely before. Yeah, and to see another Rise of Eldrazi. There's definitely a good... I mean, that's one thing that part of doing what I'm doing now can help you with. Like, we've gone through and basically we've, I've relied on using the suggestion tool that's built into Architect to give me ideas and to present me with a list which I've then sort of picked from. And admittedly, I've gone for the higher up ones, but part of the fun and part of playing around with looking at the different printings is it sometimes gives you clues for what was I going to say? Gives you clues for sets that you might be able to find similar cards in. So once you know that Rise of Eldrazi contains walls in it, then it's fun to just sit with the set and see what else might be in there, which may be some of these tools, some of these recommendation engines, for whatever reason, miss. The Evolving Wilds was from Rise. Rogue's Passage. Yeah, that was from Return to Ravnica. Oh yeah, Shards of Alara, Seaside Citadel. And then of course you've got these, which would have been from the original Ravnica set. And Terramorphic Expanse is interesting as well, like the set that they came from originally. So if you come in here, you see this is here as a Time Spiral remastered, because it was in original Time Spiral. An Unclaimed Territory was actually from Mixerland. And the other thing is, both with Terramorphic Expanse, I think it is. Let me just see if I can find it for you. So I've got muddled up here. Maybe that's the one that doesn't change. One of them yeah, so it's going to be Evolving Wilds. Oh, where's that? See, Ghost Quarter was from... Yeah, see, Ghost Quarter was from Dissension. But yeah, if you look at Evolving Wilds, this is the one I'm thinking of. This is multiple different artwork. In fact, at one point I did try and get, where I hadn't opened it, like different, different artwork. Because there's some, and the other one that's nice is, where has it gone? I really like the one from Dark Ascension. That one. Yeah, so it's just fun to see the original artwork often. In there. So that's where I want to be at the moment. Hopefully that's been interesting. Again, it's a little bit dirtly, but that's the idea. Let's just have a look. I just want to see what opening hand looks like. Yeah, as I've said, we might need to play around a little bit about with the proportions here. You might want a little more land, it depends. Although, because we do, mustn't forget actually saying that we've got a large number of mana rocks that are going to help us out here. Anyway, I hope that's been informative. I hope you've enjoyed, the actual look through more the artwork side of things as well, because I think that gives you really useful insight. Again, in terms of thinking up, oops, how did he get back in? Go away. Yeah, thinking up sets to sort of plunder for Commander Fodder. So we haven't really, we've only scratched the surface with this. It would be really interesting to go and see in Rise of Eldrazi and also Tempest block whether there were any other cards that were synergistic with walls in those particular sets, because we're definitely seeing a lot of cards from those sets in here. And again, nice to just often put together a sideboard with also Rands. I was just curious in here trying to remember that one that I was like putting. I can't resist. It's a white card. It'll come back to me at some point. But there's certain white cards that every time I build a deck with white in it, I just want to put them in there. It's like a wrath effect, but with a creature stapled to it. So it produces a creature. It basically wipes the board and then puts a creature out which has absorbed all of the creatures you've destroyed in some way. Anyway, I think I'll call it an evening there. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.